Now that we got the story out of the way, let's talk about the gameplay. The one thing I value the most in a video game is its replayability, and Valhalla doesn't have any kind of replay value for me. There just isn't shit to do once you beat the main story. The only things left to do are just these mini activities that are represented by these dots. The yellow dots are based around loot, therefore finding upgrade material and gear. The white dots are just locations where you can find collectibles, so those aren't worth much of your time. But the blue dots are labeled as mysteries. These mysteries are your only side activities to do, and they are not that much fun. These missions are so underwhelming that they begin to feel like chores to do. One of these mysteries you can do is basically the replacement for Odyssey's side quests. They're more like quick, random encounters instead of branching adventures. Basically, you'll end up just meeting some strange and unique person and doing favors for them. They're not that fun, and I honestly would have preferred how it was in Odyssey, where it would seem like when you do one person's mission, it would take you down a series of other missions, and you would end up having a whole separate adventure in the middle of your story. There is one random encounter that I enjoyed, but only because of the reference that the game made. You get to meet this guy who is making music that the other bishops do not like. It would turn out that the character that they're referencing is the lead singer of Prodigy, Keith Flint. You basically have to get the bishop to leave him alone by beating him up, and Keith will shout hilarious musical references as you do.
Take you.
Smack my bishop! You have done us a great service. I will compose this day into song. Farewell.
May you continue to make merry harmonies.
Smack my bishop! Smack my bishop!
I'm not the biggest Prodigy fan, I only know a few of their songs, but even I enjoyed this little tribute that they made for the guy. They also made a reference to what I assume is some British baseball player, but I could honestly care less. I don't really care much for baseball or just sports in general. There is also a Robin Hood reference that I thought was cute, but it was still pretty boring as fuck, so whatever. There are other mysteries that you can do that are just the most what the fuck thing in the game. You can hallucinate on mushrooms and do some weird shit? I don't know, man. Another mystery you can do is trying to make markings on some stones match. Sounds fun, right? You get to have rap battles against other Vikings, which doesn't really serve a purpose anymore once you beat the game, because completing them just gives you unique dialogue options for the story. And you can do those annoying ass platforming segments that I mentioned before while explaining the story. All of these sound pretty fun, right? Well, just you wait, cause I saved the best for last. In Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you get to stack fucking rocks. Like, really? Stacking rocks? Stacking rocks? Like, what the fuck? Who up in Ubisoft thought that this is something that gamers would appreciate? If I wanted to stack fucking rocks, I'll just go outside and head into some woods. This shit is ridiculous. I can't believe they even thought that this was okay. The only mysteries that I find sorta entertaining are the ones that are basically just boss fights. For instance, you can fight these 3 witches that the game never explains who they are or why they want to kill you. Killing all 3 of them will give you a reward, which is a piece of Thor's armor, which you'll need to unlock his hammer, so at least there's some point to killing them. Another thing you can do is fight legendary animals. I barely find these entertaining. I don't know, I just find killing animals not as satisfying as killing humans. Does that sound kinda sus? Am I a psychopath? There are also lost Vikings that will challenge you to a duel, since they feel like their only purpose is to die in battle. Those are the only 3 I can respect. All the other activities I mentioned before can honestly just disappear from the game. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot to mention the main selling point of this game. Raiding! Yeah, raiding can be fun, but only the first time. You see, you have to go raiding in order to gather materials and build huts for your village. But of course, you eventually get to a point where you max everything out and there's no longer anything for you to gather when you go raiding. All you can do is just go to a spot you already raided and just kill everybody over and over again for no reward. Later on through the game's life cycle, Ubisoft added in river raiding, which kinda added something new, but it suffers from the same problem. When you first do river raids, you get rewarded with new gear and abilities. However, after that, you're just gathering cargo for cosmetics, and even then, you will still run out of things to buy in the store. Honestly, the raiding aspect of the game would have been way funner if they added more chances to gather loot that's more valuable, and if they added more risk for failures, such as adding permadeath for your Vikings. In river raiding, if you cannot revive your teammates in time, they'll just be unavailable for the next raid, but they'll still come back when you start a new raid after that. I just feel like me and my soldiers can never truly lose because of this. We're never in real danger. So adding permadeath would make raiding more tense and more rewarding. At least that's how I feel. By now, I'm sure you're starting to see what's going on here. The only things that are worth playing do not last long. Once you beat them, that's it. The only replay value you can get from this game is just to start a new game and go through the story all over again. Yeah, fuck that. This is the one Assassin's Creed game that I will never restart in my entire life. The story is just too damn long for that. I wish they added a way to replay your favorite missions, especially the sieges you do at castles. Those are actually a lot of fun. But of course, typical Ubisoft never thought about letting the player be able to experience that outside of the main story. This game's replay value just completely sucks. When I played Origins, my main complaint was that there wasn't much to do when you complete every side mission. Odyssey came along and fixed that problem by always having contracts for you to complete for different rewards, while also including side missions. Plus, you will never get tired of conquering a nation for Sparta or Athens. So it's a shame that Ubisoft would work backwards instead of adding on to what was already good. The only way you can get more enjoyment from this game is by buying the DLCs, which leads me to my next topic. Okay, now I know I just got done tearing this game a new asshole, but I will admit, this game isn't a complete pile of shit. There are a few things that I actually like about this game that keeps me going back to it every now and then, but it isn't a lot. For starters, I enjoyed every DLC that came out for this game. The stories are more focused and are easier to follow, while also being filled with cool new characters to like. They also introduce more activities and mechanics that change up the game quite a bit, especially the latest DLC, Dawn of Ragnarok. The only issue I had with the DLCs is that the maps are just so small compared to the main game's map. Even though there's plenty of things to do within them, it kinda leaves you wanting more. As good as these DLCs are, I would say that they're worth it, but that would be incorrect. I mean, think about it. Would you buy a whole ass game just to play its DLCs? Of course not. That's why I can't really praise them and recommend it to a bunch of people. I can only recommend it to the people who are like me, who are just so disappointed at this game's story and lack of meaningful content, and are just looking for something else to do within the game. Another thing is that I also feel like the combat is a massive improvement from Odyssey. In Origins, when you swing your weapon and hit someone, you can feel the weight behind your attacks as your controller vibrates with every hit, and your screen does a slight shake as well when your attacks connect. But in Odyssey, it just kind of felt like you were cutting through butter. None of your attacks felt like it had any weight behind it. However, Valhalla fixes this issue. Not only can I feel the weight of the weapon, but they also added in cool finishers and actions like the stomp ability that adds to the brutality of Viking combat. I especially love that you can dismember limbs from people as well. The weapons are also cool as well, since you can dual wield literally everything, including shields. My only issue with the combat is just that some bosses like to spam unblockable attacks, which results in me just dodging around like a madman. I was also very annoyed that Ubisoft didn't add one-handed swords until the Siege of Paris DLC came out. It makes absolutely no sense for this game to not have one-handed swords. Literally every other Assassin's Creed game had them. Like, I get it, when you think of Vikings, you think about axes and spears, right? But come on, I'm no historian, but even I know Vikings use swords. I mean, why wouldn't they? It's basically just a long knife. But I won't trip on it too much since they're in the game now, and it helps me enjoy the combat a little more. Because even though it's fun to dual wield with crazy combinations, it's always good to go back to the good old sword and shield combo and play with somewhat historical accuracy. And last but not least, I must admit that Valhalla is a gorgeous ass game. I really like the environments that are in the game, especially the fantasy ones. I can at least say that Ubisoft did a good job in making everything look nice and really making you feel like you were actually living in the 9th century. Everything looks beautiful, and with the combination of a pretty environment with a cool soundtrack, you're in for a very immersive experience. But that's about all I can say about the things I liked about the game. Oh man, this game was such a disappointment. And it sucks because, like I mentioned before, I'm a huge fan of Assassin's Creed. It's my favorite game franchise of all time. Ever since I was 11, I was collecting these games and enjoying every single epic tale. So to see the franchise go down this road is kinda heartbreaking. It seems like Ubisoft wants to forget about everything that happened before and turn Assassin's Creed into something completely different. I mean, think about it. The Assassins aren't even called the Assassins anymore. They're the Hidden Ones. And the Templars are no longer called Templars. They're the Ancient Order. This game franchise is suffering from an identity crisis. It made sense for the Assassins to not be present in Origins since it was telling the story of how they were founded. But Odyssey and Valhalla don't have any excuses. I don't understand why Ubisoft is doing this to its beloved game series. They never listen to the community. It's almost like they're trying to kill the game off on purpose. For instance, fans, and me included, have been begging for an Assassin's Creed game to be set in an Asian setting for years. But instead they gave us some piss poor spin-off set in China and were like, "There, are you happy now?" And people also begged for a return to being in the Assassin's Brotherhood. But no, we got Vikings instead! This franchise is heading down a point of no return, and Ubisoft just wants to milk the name for all that it's worth. If you've been keeping up with the news lately, then you should have heard by now that the newest Assassin's Creed game is codenamed Infinity, and is said to be a live service game. Which is great because those have been doing so good lately. But honestly, whatever this new game turns out to be, it can't be anything good. It's just going to be another one of Ubisoft's soulless ass game that only exists to sell microtransactions, except this time, it'll be through the Assassin's Creed name. They're going to kill off the Assassin's Creed name, just like how they're killing off Tom Clancy's name. I'm honestly not looking forward to this next installment. Valhalla might be my last Assassin's Creed game I'll ever buy. It pains me to have to make that decision, but I can no longer agree with the new direction that these games are heading in. The future is not looking too bright for this franchise. We had a good run in the past, but it seems like all good things must come to an end. Well, you finally made it to the end, but before you click off, there's a few things I would like to say. First off, I would like to thank you for putting time into watching these videos I made. Thank you for watching a nerd rant about something you probably don't even care about. It's just that this has always been something on my mind since I saw a bunch of positive reviews for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I felt was bullshit, so I had a lot to get off my chest. There was a lot of time put into making this video. This video was basically a month in the making, mainly because I had to refamiliarize myself with this game's long ass story, but also because I'm kind of a fish out of water, since this is a new style of content that I'm trying to create. I could have just left that whole story explanation out of the video, but I wanted to make sure that the people who never played this game understood why I hated this story so much. So I did my best to leave out all the unimportant stuff while retelling the story the best way I could. So hopefully nothing was too confusing, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Let me know in the comment section if I left anything out or if there was anything that I could have done better. Since I'm just now starting this, I value your criticisms and opinions more than anything right now. It doesn't matter how small it is, just please let me know how good or bad the video is. Just be respectful, but most importantly, be honest. And if you're interested in another form of content, there is a link in the description to my gaming channel where I goof off and yell and curse like a madman. And one last time, I would like to thank you for watching, and I will see you again in my next video. Take care.